Hey there, it's Craig from the Career Growth Made Easy podcast. You know, I've got something weighing on my mind. Okay, I'll come out and say it. It's about resumes. Yes. Today's episode 168. Your resume is trash if. Please join me to find out what might be hurting your resume and your chances of applying for jobs. I was an engineer, and in 2008, lost my job due to the economic collapse. Jobs were scarce. I didn't know where to turn to get help updating my resume. Online services and coaches charge hundreds, even thousands of dollars. I took matters into my own hands and learned how to craft interview-winning resumes. Shortly later, I landed a job with a Fortune 500 company. I've helped many achieve similar success. Now I share my tips to create interview-winning resumes, interviewing excellence, and high-performance growth strategies on my podcast, Career Growth Made Easy. Hey there, it's Craig Ansell, and you're listening to another episode of the Career Growth Made Easy podcast. I'll be your host as we explore episode 168. Your resume is trash if. Now, in the intro, I might have caused you some concern, and if so, I apologize. But I want to let you know, if you have a resume, you have achieved something great, and you should be commended for it. However, if you can't find it, don't know the last time you updated it, or you have only a single resume, it may be time to dust it off. Get onto your keyboard and get to work. Again, if you have a resume, I'm proud of you. No offense there. But the first part is a great achievement in having a resume at all. The second part, though, not so much. You know why? Because you have a singular resume. That's where we're going to dive in today with today's show content. That word trash in the title is pretty hard. I get it. I'm sorry if it put you off. But if you want the best chances at getting a job, maybe even that dream job, or it could be just your first job, but you really have your sights set on it. What if you want the best chances for a promotion? Threw out a couple questions there, a couple challenges. I'll tell you what though, for any of those situations, a single resume is not the way to go. But don't worry, I'm going to tell you the why and the how to fix it on today's show. So stick with me. Before I get into that, I was recently at a business advisory council meeting with one of our Seminole County schools that I support. And the topic at our table with team leaders came up about resumes. It seems in the past years, the schools had a few people donate their time to come in and talk about resumes. There were two differing schools of thought that was shared with me. One of the two coaches came in and said, you only need a single resume, and once it's done, it's good to go, and you use that all the time. Check that off. Check that box off, and you're good to go. The other school of thought was, this coach said, you need 5 resumes. I found it interesting that someone would go out on a limb and say you need more than 1, but then also define it as 5. And I'm not quite sure the details of the quantity for 5, but I can tell you I don't agree with either. Everybody has their own way of doing things, and that's fine. But the way I approach things is resumes need to be specific. So if you heard me say earlier, if you have a resume, I'm proud of you and you deserve some credit, you're right. You do. But then the next thing, when you're applying for that next job or jobs, you should hand tailor your resume to each and every application. Now, if you're shrugging your shoulders or getting ready to touch that dial and change it to another show, I get it, but give me a chance. I'm not saying you need to erase your entire resume and start over with a blank sheet of paper. The reality, for most job applications, unless you're changing careers, you likely could use 80, probably 90% of your same content. In fact, the content you have is very valuable. You might just find better ways and different ways to say things. As I said in a prior show, your resume is not just about the jobs you held, the titles, the roles that you were given, but also it's about the tasks you did, but how you did them, the value you brought when doing those things. So that's where the importance comes in. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. But the way we're going to get there is making sure of a couple things. If you have significant work experience, one of the biggest problems you could run into is having a resume that is too wordy. Maybe it's too lengthy. Those two things can significantly hurt you. While you might be proud of everything you've accomplished and think it all belongs on that paper, I can understand that. I've been there too, especially as I get more work experience. My resume could turn into pages and pages. The problem, though, if you can't grab someone's attention when you submit a resume, you're not going to get the second look. You're not going to get the opportunity for a callback or for an interview. So while you might be proud of everything that you've accomplished, assuming you have significant work and or educational experience, you need to learn how to tone it down and filter out the things that are not important, least important, or that simply don't apply for that job that you're going to tackle, that job application. Then we're going to talk about formatting. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But if your resume really is an eyesore, if it is just loaded with content, it could become visually unappealing. It could be overwhelming to someone in human resources or that is reviewing the resumes and job applications. You might have a few keywords on there. We'll briefly touch on keywords. You might have a few keywords that have got you in the potential pile, right? You're a potential interview candidate. But when it comes to humans and visually scanning resumes, and by the way, you need to know this, most of the time, if a resume gets in front of a human being, you have maybe 5 or 6 seconds max for the first go-around. This is not a reading and review round. This is a scanning round. This is where somebody looks down at your resume and they make the determination in those few precious seconds whether you're in the save pile to continue forward or you're in the discard pile. I know it sounds harsh, but I've talked to a number of hiring companies over the years and they need ways to pare down their resumes. If a resume isn't formatted well, if it's got too much content, if it's too wordy, these things hurt you. And by the way, if you need help with such things, I'm happy to work with you to review your resume and give you some feedback and some comments to help you improve your resume. You can always reach out to me on social media or email, as well as I have an online course, my Resume Masterclass, that once you purchase it, you have lifetime access. You can use it to build your first resume, update a resume, or completely redesign it. So should you get to that point in your life, in your career, that you were doing a certain career field and now you've completely switched and done a 180 and you're doing something different, this course can help you rebuild your resume with an entirely new career focus. And there's special tools and tips that I use so that you can extract the most information and most value out of your job life experience and educational experiences so that you can then apply those as each and every job opportunity comes up. But back to today's show, though, talking about your resume is trash if. It could be trash. It could be something that unfortunately ends up in the trash when you apply for your future jobs if your resume is too wordy, if your resume is too lengthy, and if your resume is not formatted well. So let's back up a minute and talk about the too wordy in a little bit more detail. Assuming you have significant experience both in your work and your educational backgrounds, I know that it feels like we want to be proud of what we've accomplished, and we should be, but we have to keep in mind the job that we're applying for, the job that you're applying for. What would that employer need to know? What would they want to know? And what would be the topping on the cake? What would be the cherry on the cake, right? What would make you stand out above and beyond for the right reasons? Those are the words, those are the trainings, the educations, the value statements that you need to bring to this employer to stay on the yes pile and not get discarded into the trash regarding your resume. So, length is one situation. Keep the number of pages down. Wording is another. Do you have the ability to cut down on the number of words on your resume so that if you're using bullets, they are in fact bullet statements and they're not sentences or, in some cases I've seen, paragraphs? If you don't have that capability to do so on your own, I stand ready to help you through a coaching session or using my resume masterclass. If not, reach out to a friend, a family member, somebody that you feel communicates well. Maybe they have a certain way about things when they email you or they text you that it just seems like they always get their point across in a smooth, easy, consistent manner. This could be someone that could help you if you're not ready to work with myself or a resume coach. That's where we need to cut down on the words. Bullets are intentionally meant to be limited in the number of words. This goes the same for resumes, in my opinion, as well as it does for presentations, such as using PowerPoint or other presentation programs. It used to be that the rules were, and I still hold this true to some of the training that I teach, 5 to 7 bullets per point, no more than 5 to 7 words per bullet. The magic number, 5 to 7. That's 5 to 7 bullets and 5 to 7 words. Occasionally you'll go over or be under, but the point being, set some limits for yourself. That way you can cut down on your words. And if you're looking at your resume now, or you hear this show and go home later and take a look at it, or you're in the office and look at it, say, oh my God, I have a lot more than that. That's okay. Start striking out words that don't add value. Resequence the words. Sometimes your bullets will be longer, as mentioned, but give yourself a target, a range. If you don't have a target in sight, you can't hit it, right? You miss every time. And then with regards to the formatting, which is another key matter. I've seen resumes, unfortunately, where they were multi-page resumes, they were submitted to a hiring company, and one human resource person told me, for whatever reason, the resume pages got separated. When they were passing the resumes around in a review session with management, a particular resume page, it was a second or third page, caught someone's interest, and they were very interested in this applicant and said, I'd like to put this person in the yes pile. Unfortunately, because the papers became separated for whatever reason, their name, their contact information was not on the second and or third page. Employers are not going to take the time to play detective or to play Clue and try and, siphon through all the resumes that were submitted and then say, oh, which one wasn't stapled? Which one didn't have a paper clip? Which one does this feel like it applies to? They're not going to do that. If they spent the time, they likely could, unravel the mystery and find out which candidate was missing pages 2 and 3. But they're just not going to do that. That doesn't make them bad people, harsh, wrong. They have very limited time in today's day and age, right? I've talked about shows where we have less time, less money, less resources, and yet we're all asked to do more and more all the time. I'm sure you can agree with me. Maybe even your head is nodding. So with that said, I'm not here to hurt your feelings. I'm not here to pick on you or your resume. I am here to help you. I want your resume to stay out of the trash. I want it to go onto the maybe pile or the yes pile, the interview pile. Let's keep our resumes out of the trash. Avoid them being too wordy, too lengthy, and poorly formatted. In doing all that, let's remember that other key tip. Keep your contact info on every page. If not, you could be that candidate that we just discussed that human resource professional told me they were very interested in and they just couldn't find out who they were, so they had to move on with another candidate. Now, we don't know who that person was, and we never will. But imagine if that was you or I. We were qualified, we spent the time to put a nice resume together, we followed some of these tips, and then we forgot to put our contact info on each and every page. Ouch. If you don't have your contact info on your resume pages, each and every one, I strongly suggest you consider that and apply that right away before you submit your next resume. The biggest takeaways today are two parts. Avoid a one-and-done resume and update your resume regularly, keeping in mind the tips about avoiding wordiness, avoiding extreme length, and make sure it's formatted well so it's not an eyesore. If you need help, I stand by here ready to help you with one-on-one career coaching. You can go to my website, craigansell.com, and click the coaching tab to select the various coaching programs I have. We can also have you go through my resume masterclass. Again, you can build your first resume, update an existing resume, or totally demolish it and redesign it if you're switching job fields or career fields. If today's episode got you excited and interested in updating your resume, I'm glad it worked. But you're just not ready to press the button and purchase my course or hire me for career growth coaching, it's not a problem. Don't forget to go to my website and grab your free download titled Land Your Dream Job, 3 Tips for Resume Excellence. I'll give you some free pointers that we talked about today and some additional ones to help you improve your resume, and it's at zero cost. Just give me your first name, your email address, and you'll be off with your free download. That's Land Your Dream Job, 3 Tips for Resume Excellence. Go to my website now, craigansell.com, and get your copy. Free. Happy job application hunting and happy resume reviews. I'm Craig Ansell, your host of the Career Growth Made Easy podcast, closing episode 168. Your resume is trash if. But I have a feeling that doesn't apply to you anymore. See ya. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our channel. New episodes every Monday. In the meantime, why don't you follow us on social media at Craig Ansell on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. To book a coaching appointment, download our free guides, or join our email list, check out the links in the description below.